Leonard Simon Nimoy is an American actor, film director, poet, singer and photographer. Nimoy is best known for his role of Spock in the original Star Trek series, and in multiple film, television, and video game sequels. Nimoy began his career in his early 20s, teaching acting classes in Hollywood and making minor film and television appearances through the 1950s, as well as playing the title role in Kid Monk Baroni. Foreshadowing his fame as a semi-alien, he played Narab, one of 3 Martian invaders in the 1952 movie serial Zombies of the Stratosphere. In 1953, he served in the United States Army. In 1965, he made his first appearance in the rejected Star Trek pilot, The Cage, and would go on to play the character of Mr. Spock until 1969, followed by 8 feature films and guest slots in the various spin-off series. His character of Spock has had a significant cultural impact and garnered Nimoy 3 Emmy Award nominations. TV Guide named Spock one of the 50 greatest TV characters. After the original Star Trek series, Nimoy starred in Mission: Impossible for 2 seasons, hosted the documentary series In Search of, and narrated Civilization 4, as well as making several well-received stage appearances. More recently, he also had a recurring role in the science fiction series Fringe. Nimoy's fame as Spock is such that both of his autobiographies, I'm Not Spock and I Am Spock, were written from the viewpoint of sharing his existence with the character. Early life: Nimoy was born on March 26, 1931 in Boston, Massachusetts in the West End, to Yiddish-speaking Orthodox Jewish immigrants from Iziaslav, Soviet Union. Nimoy is 4 days younger than his Star Trek co-star, William Shatner. His father, Max Nimoy, owned a barbershop in the Mattapan section of the city. His mother, Dora Nimoy, was a homemaker. Nimoy began acting at the age of 8 in children's and neighborhood theater. His parents wanted him to attend college and pursue a stable career, or even learn to play the accordion, with which, his father advised, Nimoy could always make a living, but his grandfather encouraged him to become an actor. His first major role was at 17, as Ralphie in an amateur production of Clifford Odets Awake and Sing. Nimoy took drama classes at Boston College in 1953 but failed to complete his studies, and in the 1970s studied photography at the University of California, Los Angeles. He has an MA in Education from Antioch College, an honorary doctorate from Antioch University in Ohio, and an honorary doctorate of Humane Letters from Boston University. Nimoy served as a sergeant in the United States Army from 1953 through 1955, alongside fellow actor Ken Berry and architect Frank Gehry. Career: before and during Star Trek, Nimoy's film and television acting career began in 1951. But after receiving the title role in the 1952 film Kid Monk Baroni, a story about a street punk turned professional boxer, he played more than 50 small parts in B-movies, television series such as Perry Mason and Dragnet, and serials such as Republic Pictures' Zombies of the Stratosphere. To support his family, he often did other work, such as delivering newspapers. He played an Army sergeant in the 1954 science fiction thriller Them, and a professor in the 1958 science fiction movie The Brain Eaters, and had a role in The Balcony, a film adaptation of the Jean Genet play. With Vic Morrow, he produced a 1966 version of Death Watch, an English-language film version of Genet's play Haute Surveillance, adapted and directed by Morrow and starring Nimoy. On television, Nimoy appeared as Sonoman in 2 episodes of the 1957–1958 syndicated military drama The Silent Service, based on actual events of the submarine section of the United States Navy. He had guest roles in the Sea Hunt series from 1958 to 1960 and a minor role in the 1961 The Twilight Zone episode A Quality of Mercy. He also appeared in the syndicated Highway Patrol starring Broderick Crawford. In 1959, Nimoy was cast as Luke Reed in the Night of Decision episode of the ABC Warner Brothers Western series Cold Point 45, starring Wade Preston and directed by Leslie H. Martinson. Nimoy appeared 4 times in ethnic roles on NBC's Wagon Train, the #1 program of 1962. He portrayed Bernabé Zamora in the Esteban Zamora story, Cherokee Ned in the Maggie Hamilton story, Joaquin Delgado in the Tiburcio Mendes story, and Emterio Vasquez in the Bela Crowfoot story. Nimoy appeared in Bonanza, The Rebel, Two Faces West, Rawhide, The Untouchables, The 11th Hour, Perry Mason, Combat. Daniel Boone, The Outer Limits, The Virginian, Get Smart and Mission, Impossible. He appeared again in the 1995 Outer Limits series. He appeared in Gunsmoke in 1966 as John Walking Fox. Nimoy and Star Trek co-star William Shatner first worked together on an episode of The Man from UNCLE. The Project Strager's Affair. Their characters were from opposite sides of the Iron Curtain, though with his saturnine looks, Nimoy was predictably the villain, with Shatner playing a reluctant UNCLE recruit. On the stage, Nimoy played the lead role in a short run of Gore Vidal's Visit to a Small Planet in 1968 at the Pheasant Run Playhouse in St. Charles, Illinois. Star Trek: Nimoy's greatest prominence came from his role in the original Star Trek series. As the half-Vulcan, half-human Spock, a role he chose instead of one on the soap opera Peyton Plessis. Nimoy became a star, and the press predicted that he would have his choice of movies or television series. He formed a long-standing friendship with Shatner, who portrayed his commanding officer, saying of their relationship, "We were like brothers." Star Trek was broadcast from 1966 to 1969. Nimoy earned 3 Emmy Award nominations for his work on the program. He went on to reprise the Spock character in Star Trek, the animated series, and 2 episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation. The first 6 Star Trek movies feature the original Star Trek cast, including Nimoy, who also directed 2 of the films. He played the elder Spock in the 2009 Star Trek movie and reprised the role in a brief appearance in the 2013 sequel, Star Trek Into Darkness, both directed by J.J. Abrams. Spock's Vulcan salute became a recognized symbol of the show and was identified with him. Nimoy created the sign himself from his childhood memories of the way Kohanim held their hand when giving blessings. During an interview, he translated the priestly blessing which accompanied the sign and described it during a public lecture: "May the Lord bless and keep you, and may the Lord cause his countenance to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious unto you and grant you peace." The accompanying spoken blessing, "Live long and prosper." After Star Trek, following Star Trek in 1969, Nimoy immediately joined the cast of the spy series Mission: Impossible, which was seeking a replacement for Martin Landau. Nimoy was cast in the role of Paris, an IMF agent who was an ex-magician and makeup expert, the Great Paris. He played the role during seasons 4 and 5. Nimoy had strongly been considered as part of the initial cast for the show but remained in the Spock role of Star Trek. He co-starred with Yul Brynner and Richard Crenna in the Western movie Catlow. He also had roles in 2 episodes of Rod Serling's Night Gallery in Columbo, where he played a murderous doctor who was one of the few criminals with whom Columbo became angry. Nimoy appeared in various made-for-television films such as Assault on the Wayne, Baffled, The Alpha Caper, The Missing or Deadly, Seizure, The Story of Kathy Morris, and Marco Polo. He received an Emmy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor for the television film A Woman Called Golda. In 1975, Leonard Nimoy filmed an opening introduction to Ripley's World of the Unexplained museum located at Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and Fisherman's Wharf at San Francisco, California. In the late 1970s, he hosted and narrated the television series In Search of, which investigated paranormal or unexplained events or subjects. He also had a memorable character part as a psychiatrist in Philip Kaufman's remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. During this time, Nimoy also won acclaim for a series of stage roles. He appeared in such plays as Vincent, Fiddler on the Roof, The Man in the Glass Booth, Oliver, 6 RMS Riverview, Full Circle, Camelot, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The King and I, Caligula, The Four-Poster, Twelfth Night, Sherlock Holmes, Equus, and My Fair Lady. Star Trek films. When a new Star Trek series was planned in the late 1970s, Nimoy was to be in only 2 out of 11 episodes, but when the show was elevated to a feature film, he agreed to reprise his role. After directing a few television show episodes, Nimoy started film directing in 1984 with the third installment of the film series. Nimoy would go on to direct the second most successful film in the franchise after the 2009 Star Trek film, Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, and Three Men and a Baby, the highest-grossing film of 1987, made him a star director. At a press conference promoting the 2009 Star Trek movie, Nimoy made it clear that he had no further plans or ambition to direct. No, I'm done with all that, thank you. I never set out to be a director. After Spock had died, sort of, in Star Trek II, they brought me in for a meeting and asked if I'd like to be involved in Star Trek III, in the making of it, and I had been told that I should be directing. I took it as an insult because I thought, what's wrong with my acting? But I thought maybe now I should do that, and I said I'd like to direct the movie, and I suddenly found myself with a directing career which I had enjoyed and I had enough of it. I directed I think 5 or 6 films a year. I had a good time. Other work after Star Trek: in 1978, Nimoy played Dr. David Kibner in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. He also did occasional work as a voice actor in animated feature films, including the character of Galvatron in the Transformers, the movie in 1986. Nimoy was featured as the voiceover narrator for the CBS paranormal series Haunted Lives, True Ghost Stories in 1991. In 1991, Nimoy teamed up with Robert B. Radnitz to produce a movie for TNT about a pro bono publico lawsuit brought by public interest attorney William John Cox on behalf of Mel Mermelstein, an Auschwitz survivor, against a group of organizations engaged in Holocaust denying. Nimoy also played the Mermelstein role and believes, if every project brought me the same sense of fulfillment that Never Forget did, I would truly be in paradise. Nimoy lent his voice as narrator to the 1994 IMAX documentary film, Destiny in Space, showcasing film footage of space from 9 space shuttle missions over 4 years' time. In 1994, Nimoy performed as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in The Pagemaster. In 1998, he had a leading role as Mustafamond in the made-for-television production of Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Together with John Delancey, another ex-actor from the Star Trek series, Nimoy created Alien Voices, an audio production venture that specializes in audio dramatizations. Among the works jointly narrated by the pair are The Time Machine, A Journey to the Center of the Earth, The Lost World, The Invisible Man and The First Men in the Moon, as well as several television specials for the Sci-Fi Channel. In an interview published on the official Star Trek website, Nimoy said that Alien Voices was discontinued because the series did not sell well enough to recoup costs. From 1994 until 1997, Nimoy narrated the Ancient Mysteries series on A&E, including The Sacred Water of Lourdes, and Secrets of the Romanovs. He also appeared in advertising in the United Kingdom for the computer company Time Computers in the late 1990s. In 1997, Nimoy played the prophet Samuel, alongside Nathaniel Parker, in the Bible collection movie David. He had a central role in Brave New World, a 1998 TV movie version of Aldous Huxley's novel where he played a character reminiscent of Spock in his philosophical balancing of unpredictable human qualities with the need for control. Nimoy has also appeared in several popular television series including Futurama and The Simpsons as both himself and Spock. Nimoy appeared in Hearts of Space program number 142 Whales Alive. In 1999, he voiced the narration of the English version of the Sega Dreamcast game Seaman and promoted Y2K educational films. In 2000, he provided on-camera hosting and introductions for 45 half-hour episodes of an anthology series entitled Our 20th Century on the AEN-TV network. The series covers world news, sports, entertainment, technology, and fashion using original archive news clips from 1930 to 1975 from the National Archives in Washington, D.C. and other private archival sources. In 2001, Nimoy voiced the role of the King of Atlantis in the Disney animated feature Atlantis, The Lost Empire, which featured Michael J. Fox voicing the lead role. In 2003, he announced his retirement from acting to concentrate on photography, but subsequently appeared in several television commercials with William Shatner for Priceline.com. He appeared in a commercial for Aleve, an arthritis pain medication, which aired during the 2006 Super Bowl. Nimoy provided a comprehensive series of voiceovers for the 2005 computer game Civilization IV. He did the television series Next Wave, where he interviewed people about technology. He is the host in the documentary film The Once and Future Griffith Observatory, currently running in the Leonard Nimoy Event Horizon Theater at the Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles. Nimoy and his wife, Susan Bay Nimoy, were major supporters of the observatory's historic 2002-2004 expansion. In 2007, he produced the play, Shakespeare's Will, by Canadian playwright Vern Thiessen. The one-woman show starred Jean-Marie Simpson as Shakespeare's wife, Anne Hathaway. The production was directed by Nimoy's wife, Susan Bay. Nimoy was given casting approval over who would play the young Spock in the 2009 Star Trek film. On January 6, 2009, he was interviewed by William Shatner on the biography channel's Shatner's Raw Nerve. In May 2009, he made an appearance as the mysterious Dr. William Bell in the season finale of Fringe, which explores the existence of a parallel universe. Nimoy returned as Dr. Bell in the autumn for an extended arc, and according to Roberto Orci, co-creator of Fringe, Bell will be the beginning of the answers to even bigger questions. This choice led one reviewer to question if Fringe's plot might be a homage to the Star Trek episode Mirror, Mirror, which featured an alternate reality mirror universe concept and an evil version of Spock distinguished by a goatee. On the May 9, 2009 episode of Saturday Night Live, Nimoy appeared as a surprise guest on the Skid Weekend Update. During a mock interview, Nimoy called old Trekkies who did not like the new movie dickheads. In the 2009 Star Trek movie, he plays the older Spock from the original Star Trek timeline. Zachary Quinto portrays the young Spock. Starring with Will Ferrell in the television-based movie Land of the Lost in June 2009, he voiced the part of the Zun, an Althusian. Nimoy is also a frequent and popular reader for Selected Shorts, an ongoing series of programs at Symphony Space in New York City which features actors, and sometimes authors, reading works of short fiction. The programs are broadcast on radio and available on websites through Public Radio International, National Public Radio and WNYC Radio. Nimoy was honored by Symphony Space with the renaming of the Thalia Theatre as the Leonard Nimoy Thalia Theatre. Nimoy has also provided voiceovers for the Star Trek Online massively multiplayer online game, released in February 2010, as well as Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep as Master Xehanort, the series' leading villain. Tetsuya Nomura, the director of Birth by Sleep, stated that he chose Nimoy for the role specifically because of his role as Spock. Retirement. In April 2010, Leonard Nimoy announced that he was retiring from playing Spock, citing both his advanced age and a desire to give Zachary Quinto the opportunity to enjoy full media attention with the Spock character. Kingdom Hearts, Birth by Sleep was to be his final performance. However, in February 2011, he announced his definite plan to return to Fringe and reprise his role as William Bell. His retirement from acting has not included voice acting, as his appearance in the third season of Fringe includes his voice, and he provided the voice of Sentinel Prime in Transformers: Dark of the Moon. In May 2011, Nimoy starred in the alternate version music video of Bruno Mars' The Lazy Song. Aaron Bayshuk, the Atlantic Records executive who signed Bruno Mars to the label, is Nimoy's stepson. Nimoy provided the voice of Spock as a guest star in the Season 5 episode of the CBS sitcom, The Big Bang Theory. The episode is titled The Transporter Malfunction, and aired on March 29, 2012, and is frequently mentioned by several of the main characters. In spring 2012, Nimoy reprised his role of William Bell in Fringe, in the fourth season episodes Letters of Transit, and Brave New World Parts 1 and 2. Nimoy reprised his role as Master Xehanort in the recent title Kingdom Hearts 3D, Dream Drop Distance. On August 30, 2012, Nimoy narrated a satirical segment about Mitt Romney's life on Comedy Central's The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. In 2013, Nimoy reprised his role as Spock Prime in a cameo appearance in the film Star Trek Into Darkness. Photography. Nimoy's interest in photography began in childhood. He still owns a camera that he rebuilt at the age of 13. His photography studies at UCLA occurred after Star Trek and Mission: Impossible, when Nimoy seriously considered changing careers. His work has been exhibited at the E. Michelson Galleries in Northampton, Massachusetts and the Massachusetts Museum of Contemporary Art. Directing. Nimoy made his directorial debut in 1973, directing the Death on a Barge segment for an episode of Night Gallery during its final season. It wouldn't be until the early 1980s that Nimoy resumed directing at a consistent basis, ranging from television shows to motion pictures. His final directorial credit was in 1995 for the episode Killshot, the pilot from the TV series Deadly Games. Writing. Nimoy has written 2 volumes of autobiography. The first was called I Am Not Spock and was controversial, as many fans incorrectly assumed that Nimoy was distancing himself from the Spock character. In the book, Nimoy conducts dialogues between himself and Spock. The contents of this first autobiography also touched on a self-proclaimed identity crisis that seemed to haunt Nimoy throughout his career. It also related to an apparent love-hate relationship with the character of Spock in the Trek franchise. I went through a definite identity crisis. The question was whether to embrace Mr. Spock or to fight the onslaught of public interest. I realize now that I really had no choice in the matter. Spock and Star Trek were very much alive and there wasn't a unregistered trademark T anything that I could do to change that. The second volume, I Am Spock, saw Nimoy communicating that he finally realized his years of portraying the Spock character had led to a much greater identification between the fictional character and himself. Nimoy had much input into how Spock would act in certain situations, and conversely, Nimoy's contemplation of how Spock acted gave him cause to think about things in a way that he never would have thought if he had not portrayed the character. As such, in this autobiography Nimoy maintains that in some meaningful sense he has merged with Spock while at the same time maintaining the distance between fact and fiction. Nimoy has also written several volumes of poetry, some published along with a number of his photographs. His latest effort is titled A Lifetime of Love, Poems on the Passages of Life. His poetry can be found in the Contemporary Poets Index of the Hypertexts. Nimoy adapted and starred in the one-man play Vincent, based on the play Van Gogh by Philip Stevens. In 1995, Nimoy was involved in the production of Primortals, a comic book series published by Tenno Comics about first contact with aliens, which had arisen from a discussion he had with Isaac Asimov. There was a novelization by Steve Perry. Music. During and following Star Trek, Nimoy also released 5 albums of musical vocal recordings on Dot Records. On his first album Mr. Spock's Music from Outer Space, and half of his second album Two Sides of Leonard Nimoy, science fiction-themed songs are featured where Nimoy sings as Spock. On his final 3 albums, he sings popular folk songs of the era and cover versions of popular songs, such as Proud Mary, and Johnny Cash's I Walk the Line. There are also several songs on the later albums that are written or co-written by Nimoy. He has described how his recording career got started. Charles Green of Dot Records had arranged with a studio to do an album of space music based on music from Star Trek, and he has a teenage daughter who's a fan of the show and a fan of Mr. Spock. She said, "Well, if you're going to do an album of music from Star Trek, then Mr. Spock should be on the album." So Dot contacted me and asked me if I would be interested in either speaking or singing on the record. I said I was very interested in doing both. That was the first album we did, which was called Mr. Spock's Music from Outer Space. It was very well received and successful enough that Dot then approached me and asked me to sign a long-term contract. The albums were popular and resulted in numerous live appearances and promotional record signings that attracted crowds of fans in the thousands. The early recordings were produced by Charles Green, who may be best known for his version of Quentin's theme from the mid-60s goth soap opera Dark Shadows. Some listeners regard these recordings as unintentionally camp, but some have praised them as quality 1960s folk music. His tongue-in-cheek performance of the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins received a fair amount of airplay when Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings films were released. In addition to his own music career, he directed a 1985 music video for the Bangles Going Down to Liverpool. He makes a brief cameo appearance in the video as their driver. This came about because his son Adam Nimoy was a friend of Bangles lead singer Susanna Hoffs from college. Nimoy's voice appeared in sampled form on a song by the pop band Information Society in the late 80s. The song, What's on Your Mind, reached number 3 on the US pop charts, and number 1 on dance charts. The group's self-titled LP contains several other samples from the original Star Trek television series. Nimoy also appears in the alternate music video for the song Lazy Song by pop artist Bruno Mars. Personal life. Nimoy has long been active in the Jewish community, and he can speak and read Yiddish. In 1997, he narrated the documentary A Life Apart, Hasidism in America, about the various sects of Hasidic Orthodox Jews. In October 2002, Nimoy published The Shekinah Project, a photographic study exploring the feminine aspect of God's presence, inspired by Kabbalah. Reactions have varied from enthusiastic support to open condemnation. Nimoy claims that objections to Shekinah do not bother or surprise him, but he smarts at the stridency of the Orthodox protests, and is saddened at the attempt to control thought. Nimoy has been married twice. In 1954, he married actress Sandra Zober, whom he divorced in 1987. In New Year's Day of 1989, he married actress Susan Bay, who is a cousin of director Michael Bay. Leonard Nimoy has a second cousin in voice actor Jeff Nimoy and other cousins working in art, education, design, and health industries. In a 2001 DVD, Nimoy revealed that he became an alcoholic while working on Star Trek and ended up in rehab. William Shatner, in his 2008 book Up Till Now, the autobiography, speaks about how later in their lives, Nimoy tried to help Shatner's alcoholic wife, Narayan Kidd. Nimoy still has the last pair of Spock's ears he wore on the series, as a memento. He has said that the character of Spock, which he played 12 to 14 hours a day, 5 days a week, influenced his personality in private life. Each weekend during the original run of the series, he would be in character throughout Saturday and into Sunday, behaving more like Spock than himself, more logical, more rational, more thoughtful, less emotional, and finding a calm in every situation. It was only on Sunday in the early afternoon that Spock's influence on his behavior would fade off and he would feel more himself again, only to start the cycle over again, on Monday morning. Nimoy also introduced the Vulcan nerve pinch in an early Star Trek episode The Enemy Within. Initially, Spock was supposed to knock out an evil Kirk in the engineering room by striking him on the back of the head. Nimoy felt that the action was not in keeping with the nature of Spock's character, so he suggested the pinch as a non-violent alternative, which, if applied to the correct nerve cluster, could render the target almost immediately unconscious. Nimoy explained this to the episode's director and, according to Nimoy, the director had no idea what he was talking about. However, Nimoy would express relief in later interviews and appearances that when he explained the concept to William Shatner, he understood it immediately, and Nimoy credits Shatner's reaction to the nerve pinch in the episode as what really sold it. In early scripts for Star Trek, the nerve pinch was referred to as the FSNP, which stood for Famous Spock Neck Pinch. The Vulcan Mind-Meld was a large part of Star Trek as well, and was first seen in the episode Dagger of the Mind. In the original script, Spock was to interrogate a madman in sick bay. To make the scene more interesting, Gene Roddenberry rewrote the script to include the Vulcan Mind-Meld, a simple but dangerous action Spock would take to read the man's mind. Spock would simply grab the head of the man, placing his fingers near the man's temples, closing his eyes, and connecting their minds together. After finding out the information he needed, Spock would break contact, returning both minds back to their original, normal states. Nimoy was thrilled with the new action, saying it was more dramatic than the original idea for the scene, and he applauded its use of the idea that Vulcans are very emotional and use their hands for many important duties. Nimoy later made known that the longer and more frequently Spock performed the action, the less dangerous it became, which is why this action could be seen more frequently in the show after Dagger of the Mind. He has remained good friends with co-star William Shatner and was best man at Shatner's third marriage in 1997. He also remained good friends with DeForest Kelley until Kelly's death in 1999. Nimoy is a private pilot and has owned his own airplane. The Space Foundation named Nimoy as the recipient of the 2010 Douglas S. Morrow Public Outreach Award for creating a positive role model that inspired and told numbers of viewers to learn more about the universe. In 2009, Nimoy was honored by his childhood hometown when the office of Mayor Thomas Menino proclaimed the date of November 14, 2009, as Leonard Nimoy Day in the city of Boston. Like his friend William Shatner, Nimoy suffers from tinnitus, which is a symptom of hearing loss. Nimoy and Shatner likely got it filming a Star Trek episode called Arena, where he and Shatner stood too close to a special effects explosion resulting in Nimoy having tinnitus in his right ear and Shatner having it in his left ear. Shortly after he was photographed in a wheelchair and using an oxygen mask, Nimoy revealed in February 2014 that he has been diagnosed with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. On Twitter, he said, "I quit smoking 30 years ago. Not soon enough. I have COPD. Grandpa says, quit now." LLAP. Filmography, film, television, directing, 1967, Night Gallery, episode, Death on a Barge, 1981, Vincent, based on the play Van Gogh by Philip Stevens, 1982, The Powers of Matthew Starr, episode, The Triangle, 1983, T.J. Hooker, episode, The Decoy, 1984, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, 1986, Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, 1987, Three Men and a Baby, 1988, The Good Mother, 1990, Funny About Love, 1994, Holy Matrimony, 1995, Deadly Games, episode, Killshot, Video Games. 1999, Seaman, narrator, 2005, Civilization 4, narrator, 2010, Star Trek Online, Mr. Spock/narrator, 2010, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, Master Xehanort, 2012, Kingdom Hearts 3D, Dream Drop Distance, Master Xehanort, music videos, 1967, The Ballad of Bilbo Baggins by Leonard Nimoy, 1985, Going Down to Liverpool by the Bangles, writer, bibliography, I'm Not Spock, Vincent, based on the play Van Gogh by Philip Stevens, Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, I Am Spock, Shekinah Photography, The Full Body Project. Poetry, You and I Will I Think of You? We Are All Children Searching for Love, a collection of poems and photographs, Come Be With Me, These Words Are For You, Warmed by Love, A Lifetime of Love, Poems on the Passages of Life, Discography. Leonard Nimoy presents Mr. Spock's music from outer space, Two Sides of Leonard Nimoy, The Way I Feel, The Touch of Leonard Nimoy, The New World of Leonard Nimoy, References. External links, Leonard Nimoy's personal website, Leonard Nimoy at the Internet Movie Database, Leonard Nimoy at the TCM Movie Database, Leonard Nimoy at AllMovie, Leonard Nimoy's entry at StarTrek.com, Leonard Nimoy at Alien Voices, interview with Leonard Nimoy at Hosley.com, Leonard Nimoy Poetry and Photography on the Hypertexts, Leonard Nimoy interview video at the Archive of American Television, 2010 interview with Nimoy about his Secret Selves show at the Massachusetts Museum of Contemporary Art, Media, Newsmaker of the Week, Leonard Nimoy, Archive of American Television interview with Leonard Nimoy November 2, 2000, interview with Leonard Nimoy about photography, on The Callie Crossley Show, 2014 interview with Leonard Nimoy about Spock, photography, and living with COPD.